We're so excited to have our special guest today, Alexander Tuttle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys.
We've already said I think we could do an entire season of just the things that you bring to the table.
Well, I love sharing, so I'm excited about today and looking forward to sharing with all you people.
Yeah, so you're a philosopher. You are an energy therapist. You're a sound therapist. You do counseling as well?
I do, yes.
And you're a writer.
Yes.
You have a podcast. So much information. Like you're the real deal.
Well, it falls all under the same umbrella, and it comes to everything being about frequency and vibration. And so even my performances, my live performances, is a type of different from entertainment. It's to help people understand what sound feels like and how the different ancient and modern tools can help us to find out what's going on inside our bodies, inside our minds, and help to release and restore, because our body wants to come back to homeostasis. And when we're able to get out of our minds and get out of the way, the body can do amazingly healing things.
Right, because we are energy, right? And we talked on our last episode about keeping your vibrations high.
Right.
And all of this helps with that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So when we get into discussing the philosophy a little bit, one of the main premises is this is the plane of polarity. And so I enjoy helping people understand the purpose of friction in our lives and how to move through that friction while holding our vibration at a high level. Instead of trying to stay away from those frictional situations, invite them in. Jalaluddin Rumi, one of my favorite Sufi poets, has a poem that says, "Old jealousy, there you are, my friend. Come on in. Let's dine together." And that's the way that I approach emotions, to help people to move through them rather than resist them.
That is amazing. What a beautiful, beautiful poem. You keep mentioning the philosophy and the way, so give a little background. Joni and I came to your sound journey, which is the beautiful instruments and
Under the
music
stars.
and under the stars outside. It was so
beautiful.
amazing. So you referenced that a lot of people know you as the sound guy, but there's so much more to it. There's so much more behind it. Can you touch on the philosophy that all of this is kind of centered around?
Sure. There is a lot of depth there, but it does come back to that idea that everything is frequency and vibration. And so when we look at ill health or things that are bothering us, we can look at it and choose to just see it as something has gotten out of its natural frequency. And if we can find out how to bring that back into resonance, this is the medicine of the future. Sound is at the top of the list now in breakthrough medicine. And it has been a little entertaining to me because sound is the first sense that we develop as a baby. And for a lot of people, sound is the last sense that goes when they are dying. But it's the last sense to truly get any recognition in healing. And now, I mean, we've gone through aromatherapy, we've gone through touch therapy, massage. We've gone through so many different senses and how it affects our health. But now it's sound's time. And so now I do a lot of talks at colleges, at hospitals, and it's so wonderful to see that, you know, it's breaking through.
Right.
And part of my path is to help everyone to understand that it's backed by physics. I mean, this isn't hoodoo voodoo. It's science now. And Western medicine is finally catching up. I'm so happy for that.
I love that. I was going to say, you know, it's funny because I just know that when I listen to music, I feel good.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it can bring up memories from the past and bring those resonance of feeling good. It can also bring us down. Sometimes we're sad and we want to hear a sad song. And the beautiful thing about frequency medicine is you meet the person or the situation where it's at, and then slowly, gradually over time, you bring and change and shift that frequency. And that's the basic idea of this modality of medicine, is to gradual changes over long periods of time equals lasting results. And we're a culture that's too used to trying to make it happen fast.
Right.
And there's a lot of side effects with fast. But anyway, the J.U.S.T philosophy stands for Journeys Unite Seeking Transformation. So see, we come together in relationships to help each other transform. But most of us haven't been taught that depth of relationship and how important conscious communication is, not just talking and arguing and having all these different opinions. And right now our culture is stuck in so much negativity. But the difference between conscious communication is that you're able to keep your emotions at bay. As soon as the emotions come in, we stop seeing things clearly. We see them through the filter of that anger or of that fear. And so one of the very first steps in this is accepting that. And anytime that you're in an emotional state, do your best to not try to communicate with someone, and certainly don't attempt to make decisions, because that's when people really regret things. And lots of decisions and lots of communication in our culture is done through the emotions.
Right.
And especially at the times that we're at right now. So I'm all about being passionate. I'm all about standing in your power. But from my view, truth doesn't need defending. If you truly have a truth and somebody has an opposing truth, that's fine. Their truth should not bother your truth. If their truth bothers your truth, then you may not be as clear in your truth as you think that you are. So this is the way that I suggest people to use friction in your life. I'm all about harmony. We all love harmony. But friction is a good indicator of where we're at in ourselves, in our spirit, in our connection to the divine, in our connection to the body, and in the emotions and the energetic field. So the basic philosophy of the Just philosophy is a 5-level healing: physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual. And even if you stub your toe or sprain your wrist, there's 5 lessons in that. And when we get all 5 of the lessons, the human body heals expediently. But most of us are stuck in just the mental and the physical.
Right.
But the energetic and the emotional and the spiritual are so important. So important.
Go ahead. So how, because I hear what you're saying, but I also know that I can be quick to react. And when those emotions come and, I want to be right. I want to make sure I get my point across. So is that part of what you do with your counseling, is teaching people how to slowly work through those 5 different steps?
I call it managing. See, managing our emotions is very similar to raising children. If a child, say a 5-year-old, is upset, it does no good to yell at the child.
Right.
What you do is you ask compassionately, hey, what's going on? So when we're in our emotions, it's just like we're back to childhood. And we need to take a time out to I like to tell everyone that I actually put myself in time out, like when I was raising my children. So if I feel frustrated, if I feel anger or any of those negative emotions, I will put myself in a time out, and I will sit in meditation or stillness until I can shift that energy. Because if I go and engage with another human being, I'm likely to transfer that energy to them. So I want to clean that up. And so I have, this is the purpose of the philosophy, is to give people actually day-to-day steps of how to do this that we're discussing in a very realistic manner.
Yeah, so what you're talking about, like I envision myself being in an argument with my husband, let's say.
Sure.
So if I'm starting to get angry, if I want to say something, if I can take a step back and not say it and look inside myself and say, why am I reacting that way?
Right.
Because it's me, it's not him, right?
Right.
Is that part of it? To
Yes,
figure out what's triggering me. It's my issue, it's not his issue.
That's the key. I like to say that everyone's playing roles for us to learn the lessons that we need to learn. So the name of my podcast is Wise Whys. WISEWHYS, because we're constantly asking external whys. Why does she treat me that way? Why won't he listen to me? The why? And the whole idea is turn that why inside. Why am I allowing this to bother me? Why is what he is saying frustrating me? Because normally an emotional situation in the present has very little to do with the present situation. It connects and flips a switch, so to say, to all of the similar situations throughout your whole life. So that's why you're hardly ever dealing with a single situation in your emotions. You're dealing with your whole history, and this person is just bringing it up to remind you, hey, you've got some anger you still need to work through, or that person wouldn't have made you angry.
Right.
See, the beautiful thing about, I get into the chakra system as well, and these are energy centers throughout our torso, and there's 7 main ones, but there's actually hundreds of them in our body. And when those chakras or energy centers are operating optimally, we have the optimal human experience. But the energy centers are very similar to children. The least little thing can make them go into protection. And then we weren't taught how to properly open those back up.
Right.
So when you go into an emotional reaction with someone, those centers start to close up to go in protection because they're sensitive. And like I said, that's why many times you will be exhausted after an emotional engagement, because it takes so much energy to be in those emotions. See, I want to honor the emotions. I want to respect the emotions. So in the philosophy, I have what's called 3 R's. Recognize the person, the situation, or the emotion. Show it respect, and the way you show it respect is getting out of your emotional reaction. And then you simply redirect the energy, the person, or the situation. But see, we need to honor those emotions. My work is all about emotional processing. No stuffing, but emotional processing to get that energy out. In the great book, it was said, in the beginning was the Word. And when we say something, it carries a lot of power. So when rather than attacking somebody with it, maybe we could go and sit, and in that example, say you're upset with your husband, and you go sit and you say, okay, why is this upsetting me? And it could bring a story back to possibly your father. When your father used to talk to you like your husband just did, maybe you felt like he talked down to you. And see, this is still connected to father issues, and the husband is just playing the role. Many times they don't even realize they're playing that role. So this is why it's the most loving act from my perspective is to not take our emotional baggage out on another human being, but to sit and thank them for being our teacher and showing us what we need to release and work on. And so in my private practice, I have a vibrational sound table, and it gives you a massage through frequencies. While you're hearing the music, you're getting a vibrational massage. And see, the beauty is nothing can hide from vibration. So many times people will spontaneously cry on my table, and they say, I don't even know why I'm crying. I say, perfect. The mind doesn't always need to be involved to release the emotions or release the energy of it. And so that happens quite often. And relaxation is such a big part of emotional release. And our culture is so tense.
We're very tense.
Many times people will ride my sound table and they'll say, that's the most relaxed I've ever been. And their knuckles are still white. So that's true, but they still have quite a ways to go to truly get into that relaxed state.
So when you start to feel this emotion and you know that it's tied to one of the chakras, is there a way, like, can you physically feel that it's where the tension is coming from, or where the emotion is coming
many
from?
times it's the area of the body that you carry it. Like worry is in the stomach. You know, a type of spontaneous anxiety is normally in the chest. You know, rejection is connected to headaches. Resentment is connected to sinus pressure. So see, anytime that I work with a new client, the very first thing I ask them most of the time is, what does your body have to tell me? Where are you holding tightness? Where are you holding discomfort? As soon as they tell me that area of the body, then boom, I know the chakra that it's connected to, and I know the emotions that's connected to those chakras. And so then I will suggest, hey, do you have an issue with this emotion? Does this emotion come up quite often? Normally it's yes. And then we work step by step on how to deal and process those emotions.
So you can help them release that.
So you can help them release it so their family and loved ones doesn't have to continue to play these roles for them. Because journeys unite seeking transformation. We come together to help each other grow.
Yes.
But most of our culture don't see it that way. Many relationships are in competition for attention from the kids, or some type of power play of who makes the most money, who does this, who does that. And that's what I'm looking to help people to get away from and see each other as teammates more than any type of competition that there is. And many families have competition.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you see people together sometimes?
I do.
You
I
do
actually.
relationship.
I do relationship
Okay.
consultations.
Yeah,
And
that's kinda
when
cool.
I can work with both, that's the bonus, because what we're doing is we're developing a language. And like you take a word like love. Love has 100 different meanings. And so when someone says, I love you, and the other person says it back, many times they truly don't know what that means because they only have the definition of what they mean about love. Mm-hmm. So I like to take people to that next step, and when they'll use words like that, whether it's I appreciate you, Alexander, or I love you, I'll say, please explain that deeper. I want to know what that means to that person. It's not to put them on the spot, but see, I don't want to process that through my idea of appreciation and my idea of love. I truly want to know their definition. I'm not going to try to change their definition, and I'm not necessarily going to change my definition. This is what I call conscious communication. Be able to explain the words that you're using at a deeper level, and that's what makes us come together tighter as a unit.
Wow. So you're really talking a complete paradigm shift from what society is used to doing
Yes.
versus what would be this beautiful setting. Sometimes adults are a little stubborn and hard to change. Mm-hmm. Do you work with younger people, with children, with really trying to change the mindset early on?
Yes, and that's where the real power is. Mm-hmm. And moving forward in how we're going to restructure our school systems, I think that's going to be a necessity, that kids need to know how they were designed. Another step of my work is utilizing astrology to help to understand the influences. See, we're all so influenced. We're influenced by the planets. We're influenced by smells, by the food that we eat. So all of our senses are constantly being bombarded. So I use a term, seek your authentic self. Who are you when you are not being influenced by anything? And those are the people that I say truly have choice or free will. I feel that we don't have as much free will as everybody thinks that they do, because they don't even realize they're being influenced by, say, their family, their school system, their government, the food that they're eating. All of this is affecting how people think, how people see things. So this is a very deep, and I think that's connected to the word philosophy, that it's a way of life. It's not a belief system. It's an actual way of life to where you choose to practice certain things every single day. And the beautiful thing is that we're repetitious beings. We were designed that way. So anything that you do daily, you will get better at. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to do it for an hour every day. If you just do it for 5 minutes, like when people ask me to teach them a meditation style or how to be in stillness, I say just start with 3 to 5 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. But the key is do it every day. And then eventually you'll want 8 minutes, and then do that every day. Because the key is that you want it. And then you want 10 minutes, and then you want 15. But too many people start off with too large of a time gap. They say, oh, I'm going to try to do this for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And that's just too long in the beginning.
And they get frustrated and discouraged.
Consistency.
Yeah.
When I started looking at, what helped me to get into this work was being in my 20s and watching how my family operated. And I love my family, but many times we would have family get-togethers and the two parents would walk in, and as soon as they hit the front door, they would separate and they wouldn't connect again until the end when they're bringing the kids back together. And there was something in that I just went, I want more than that in my relationship. I want to feel that connection the whole time. So I said, I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to go learn another way of being intimate, another way of being connected to my people. And so that's where I come up with the saying of love your family, find your tribe. And when you find who you really resonate with, because many of us that are into the alternative stuff, some of us are black sheeps of our family, but we still need to love them. We need to carry compassion for them, even if they don't understand us. But then when you have your tribe, the people that really understand you, that's where you can really do a lot of healing there and get out of the negative toward the family so much. Just because you choose to live a different lifestyle or see things differently, we have to expect that judgment. We have to expect that people aren't going to understand these changes. The key is showing how comfortable you are in their concern, because they just love you.
Yeah.
And they're concerned about these new things that you're doing. So see, we get into defense when really we can just say, thank you so much for loving me. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to continue to work my hardest to help you to understand what I'm doing as I learn and grow and understand myself.
You know, what's funny is that I totally resonate with that, because I would say over the past 10 years or so, I've been kind of going through my changes, right? And
Right.
being my authentic self.
Well said.
And yeah, you go through that with people that don't get it.
Yes.
And it's hard sometimes, but I think I'm finally to the point where I can just be who I am and not care.
Yes.
And just appreciate that they're still in my lives. And I said something to somebody very close to me just the other day. I said, be who you want to be, not who people expect you to be.
Yes. But that's a challenge. I mean, I call them love warriors. When you decide to truly step into your authentic self, like I said, welcome that judgment, because they're trying to keep you from going down a wrong path. So I found, rather than try to explain myself, show gratitude that they care so much.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then show a willingness that as I grow and as I get better at explaining this, I will keep you updated, because I want to keep our connection.
Oh, I love that.
Many
Right.
times this can help to negate the friction, because a person goes into defense and they want to defend themselves many times, when it's just someone out of ignorance trying to show love. And ignorance isn't a bad word. It's just uninformed. It's uninformed. And to understand that the one that is changing, it is their responsibility to work on their language, to be able to explain it in a way that that person can understand it. And if you don't want to go to that much effort, then, working to grow space in between, to grow time in between, so that you don't have those confrontations. Like, I have certain people in my family that I love them dearly, and I would do anything I could for them, and I know that they would for me. But I also regulate my time around them. Because if I stay around them too long, they will eventually start to irritate me. So see, all of this work is about self-regulation and knowing when to remove yourself from a situation. So I like to say there's 3 options in an interaction with somebody. You can be useful, or you can be neutral, or you need to remove yourself from the situation, or it's going to turn frictional. So in every interaction that I'm in, I'm constantly watching people's faces. Their faces tell all. Here's a little secret. When the eyebrows go down, they're not receiving anymore. When they go up, they are. So if I'm talking to somebody and their eyebrow even twitches down, I know that they didn't just receive what I said. So I can change it and say, oh, you could also say it like this. And then if I go through a couple more tries like that and their eyebrows still down, I just change the subject.
Ooh, we're going to start paying attention
I
to that.
know. Now I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, are my eyebrows moving?
Yes, so see, the body tells a lot more than the mouth does.
Yeah.
Many people have the art of manipulation, of lying, of fibbing, but the body and the energy field doesn't lie. So when people are fibbing, there's certain things that the faces do. And so I've really enjoyed studying and learning that, because when people ask me, Alexander, why did you get into this level of work? I tell them, to be honest, I've always worn my heart on my sleeve, and I got tired of being hurt by friends, by partners, by people just saying what they thought I wanted to hear, or whatever the reason was. And I said, I wanted to learn subtle energy so that I can know the truth no matter what someone is saying. And so that's where I reside, is just in the energetic field more. And the other key here is that when we do wellness practices in the emotional and energetic field, it helps it before it gets to the physical body. See, the physical body is the most dense of these 5 levels. So it's the last part to actually show that there's a problem. But if right away, while you're working on the physical issue, whatever it is, you start working on the emotional release and the energetic side and the spiritual, that helps to expedite, and the mental's connected there too. So this is the importance of those 5 levels of the physical, the mental, the emotional, the energetic, and the spiritual or religious. And I like to say that, break it down like this: most any issue that we have begins in what I call the spiritual. It begins with doubt. And we start to doubt, we go into fear, we go into some negative emotion. See, that activates the mind, that doubt, to start to figure things out. That's where the judgment is. So the judgment activates the emotions. Then the emotions weaken the energetic field. Now we have an aura that around us, a bubble 6 to 8 feet, that Western science has proven now. You know, Eastern science has known about that for thousands of years. But when that energetic field gets weakened, that's when the physical body suffers an injury. So see, it's the most dense, so it's the last one to get the message, so to say. So this is a big part of why people go to doctors or go get checked out, and the doctor says, you're fine. But see, I went through a healing crisis when I was 37 years old, and I went through 5 years of excruciating chest pain every single day of my life from my partner dying at the time. And it took me 5 years. I chose to not take pharmaceuticals to hide from the pain. I leaned into the frictions, one of my teachings. And it took me 5 years to figure out that it was the emotion frustration. Then once I recognized what emotion it was, it took me 2 years to figure out how to live my life outside of frustration. Because at that point in time in my life, I was actually frustrated every day of my life. My abdomen stayed clenched, and I was 40 years old before I just relaxed one day and went, wow, I just relaxed my abdomen for the first time. See, this was trained from my childhood, from traumas that I went through and that type of thing. So this is very, very deep work, but at the same time, if you happen to have, like I said, a sprained wrist or a broken arm, or you're dealing with some major illness, why not be working on these other levels too to help expedite the healing on all the levels? And so this is what I'm passionate about, is helping people understand the depths of a simple injury.
Because there's always an emotional component, right? And that's the book I gave you today.
Right,
I gave her a Louise Hay book today.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that, yes.
And I was just saying how it's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
So and you said something somewhere about disease is dis-ease.
Yes.
It's whatever part it is, it's because it's in
dis-ease.
Dis-ease.
Yes, and that word has so much power, and that's why I'd suggest people use it differently. Rather than saying I have a disease or so-and-so has a disease, you know, they're experiencing a dis-ease. To me, that's a different mindset. I've seen people get diagnoses and get labels given to them. And once you're given a label, it's very hard to get it out of your mind. And so I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with labels, but it can be communicated in another way.
Right.
To where it's more acceptable for the mind not to go into fear. And so I've experienced many loved ones going through cancer, going through many types of, chronic illness. And right now I'm working with a 73-year-old gentleman that is extremely successful, but he's dealing with cancer in his neck. And we're doing exactly this. He's such a trooper, and we're going through all 5 levels simultaneously. He's doing it, some allopathic medicine, he's doing some natural, some holistic, and he wants me to, help him on the energetic, the spiritual, and the emotional levels. And we're gaining great ground, and I've worked with many, many different people with different situations in this way. Yeah.
So these 5 different levels, do they correspond, or are they part of the 5 pillars that you talk about?
Yes, the 5 pillars is connected. I developed a pillar for each level.
Okay.
So the very first pillar is find the divine order in the chaos. Or I like to say it simply as everything's in divine order, whether I understand it or not. Even death that I've gone through, when that just about killed me. After 7 years of going past that, I could see it so clearly. I could see it, what I gained from it, the person that I am now that I wouldn't have been then if that hadn't happened to me. So the second pillar is polarity versus duality. So we're in a world of polarity, but duality is a choice. Duality is, I'm all about love, and I want all of love to rid all of hate. And all of the people that are hate, they want to rid all the people of love. And that's the battle. That's duality. But in polarity, there's an understanding of, oh, there's love and there's hate. But the beauty that we were given was we get the free will of what we focus on.
To make our choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, I'm never going to pretend that hate's not there. It's always been there. In my view, it's always going to be there. But we choose what to focus on. So the darkness or the shadow side, some people use, of ourselves, I say that's the big part of my 3 R's about the recognize, respect, and redirect. You got to respect that dark side. It was created in you, and many of our dark sides was created out of survival in our youth. And we just hadn't taken the time to go, oh yeah, I'm an adult now. I don't need to go through those same patterns that I did through my teenage years. And people hold on to their personality to think that that's their authentic self. But all of our personalities have been taught to us. Through a resistance, things we resist and things that we resonate with. So this is the importance of the astrological component and I use a specific system called the Human Design System and an Egyptian numerology system that helps show, the Human Design System shows your energetic makeup, shows your chakras, shows where you're empathic, where you're taking on other people's energies, shows you where you're powerful to put energy out. And then the numerology part helps you to understand your personality a little bit better, and then your so-called higher self of where your authentic self wants to go. And many times we need to leave part of our personality behind to become that authentic self. So breaking this down, that if I have the cosmic makeup of someone using their birth information, to me that was how they were divinely designed to operate optimally. And then I get a little bit of information about the environment that a person was raised in. See, when I'm looking at that energetic makeup and they're telling me about the environment, whether it was their mother or father or grandparents, wherever they spent the majority of the time, I can see how that situation affected them specifically. I've talked to many siblings when they describe their parents. You can talk to 4 siblings, and when they describe their parents, it's like they're talking about
all different
people. All different people.
Right.
Yes.
I've heard siblings get into arguments saying that their parents were, abusive to a certain extent, and then the other siblings say they were not abusive. But see, those 2 people were designed differently. They're having different experiences with the same exact people. So this helps to clear some of that up. So this is how we can get to what is our authentic self. How do we know what that is? Well, this is a roadmap to get there. And anything that's not in your divine makeup is baggage that you've picked up. So now we know more clearly what we need to release.
Let that go.
Let that go to get towards the authentic self. I have another saying that knowledge is in the learning and wisdom is in the emptying. Seek the wise people. We're such a culture that thinks we need to learn more. I disagree. We need to empty more. We need to get rid of our baggage. So put much more time on emptying, emotional processing, forgiveness, than input of information. And so that's a huge platform of the whole Just philosophy is this emptying process, emotional processing.
Yeah. So we have all of these instruments here, and you talk about vibration, and I'm assuming that you use this somehow in the techniques that you're talking about.
Yes, one of the ways in the way that sound works is when I find a sound that someone doesn't like, I go, bingo.
It tells you.
That's what shows you where the energy is stuck. So at my sound journeys that you guys came to, I play approximately 20 to 30 different instruments from all over the world. And I get people to lie in a meditative situation or just stillness, because I'm not the entertainer. I'm providing this sound. And so it's a different experience for a lot of people because you're not watching me. That's not the point. The point is to feel these sounds going from a Tibetan bowl to a quartz crystal bowl or a Native American flute or the Indian sitar. These are all tuned to different frequencies, so they affect us at different levels of the body. And so that feeling experience, when people really get into music and sound to feel it rather than just hear it, it's a whole other level. And so I use instruments both to help to bring in balance and harmony, but I also use them to bring in dissonance, like the wonderful shaker of Native Americans. This is to break the energy up. And then you bring in something nice, like the flute, to bring in harmony after you shake the energy up. See, I could have just went out right there.
Oh my goodness, beautiful. Will you play this one because it makes
Yes.
such a cool sound?
So this is the quartz crystal bowl, and it may be out of view, but it's a little bit too high, too heavy
Hear it.
for me to pick up.
Just listen.
So just listen to this vibe. So this happens to be a bowl tuned to the third eye, between the third eye and the crown. So many times when I play this, people will sometimes say, well, I hear it in my left ear, but I don't hear it in my right ear. And see, that shows right away that there's a blockage in the third eye. The mind
Oh my
is
gosh,
too
I was
busy.
going to tell you that I heard it in my right ear, but I don't hear it in my left.
Yes.
Oh, how
So
funny.
this is the way that, these instruments are so useful. And these are Tibetan bowls that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. And I just love the resonance of these. And see, there's a wobble in there.
Feel that right
And when
here.
you get into that wobble, that's the feeling of the music.
I feel like I'm pulsating right here.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing.
And these are called Tinctures. These are at the end of my sessions. Many times this is the final pass to bring in complete harmony.